Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over my personal top 10 favorite vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, there's going to be some aircraft on this list, there's going to be mostly land vehicles on this list. These are my favorite vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Alright guys, at number 10 we have the Meibatsu Penumbra FF. This is probably my favorite JDM car in the entire game. If you guys watched my JDM list the other day, you'll know that I ranked this thing very nicely. The Penumbra is a solid car. This was my first car customization on YouTube to ever hit 10,000 views, so it has kind of a special place for me. But I also really just like the car. I'm super happy with my customization on this thing. I still remember exactly what it is. It's Mariner Blue, primary and secondary. Obviously it's got the cherry blossom livery on it as well. I love this thing. It turned out so well in my opinion. I think it's one of my cleanest cars. You guys might not agree, you might not like it. That's fair enough. I got a comment earlier today of a guy who really didn't like my Penumbra. He took a great stand against it and clearly, yeah, it really hurt my feelings. So I really like the Penumbra FF. It handles well, accelerates well. It's a great car. My favorite JDM car, I'd say. Anyway guys, let's move on to number 9. Alright guys, next up we have the Bravado Buffalo STX, which was added with the contract DLC. So obviously this is a pretty new car in the game and it's pretty high up on my list because I feel like I'm going to like it more and more as time goes on. But for right now, it's this high on the list because it just hasn't had the time to grow on me, I guess. Regardless of that though, the STX is a really sick car. I am super happy that they added this thing. If the STX wasn't right here, the Bravado Gauntlet Hellfire would be here. So I am kind of a fan of Hellcats in real life. I think they're pretty cool cars. And the STX obviously is either based off of a Scat Pack or a Hellcat. It depends how realistic you want to be, but I won't go there. I don't want to get into an argument. The STX is literally the best muscle car in the entire game. It handles amazingly. It has great acceleration. It has a pretty decent top speed. Of course, it has Imani tech. It has the machine guns you can put on it. It's got armor. It's got all these benefits that a lot of other cars really just don't have. And on top of it all, it's a 4-door and it looks great. And it looks just like the Charger in real life. So I really like this. I am always a fan of the more realistic sort of looking cars in GTA, so when they added the STX, I was super hyped. Overall, I think it's a great car, definitely worth picking up. That's pretty much it for number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Alright guys, next up, of course, we have the Night Shark. Yes, I know the window plating does nothing. I have it on my car anyway. I don't really care. I think it looks awesome. I also have a Night Shark without window plating, so before you even comment, I know. Trust me, I know. I appreciate it. The window plating. Anyways, regardless of that, the Night Shark is of course an absolutely fantastic armored vehicle in GTA. If new players ask me what armored vehicle they should buy, I almost always say the Night Shark or the Insurgent, depending on how much money they have. The Night Shark is a great off-road vehicle. It's also a great armored vehicle, as I mentioned already. This thing is pretty incredible. It also has the front-mounted machine gun, which albeit is completely piss weak, but it does have it nonetheless. Of course, the Night Shark can also take 27 homing missiles from an Oppressor Mark II. Is pretty good. That gives you a lot of protection against one of those things, so that's excellent. It's also one of the fastest armored vehicles in the entire game. It is actually so quick. It's quite ridiculous, really. The Night Shark has allowed me to kill many griefers in Grand Theft Auto Online. If you guys go back to my older PvP videos, you will see me driving the Night Shark a lot. I love this thing. It's a great tool to have in GTA. Almost an essential tool, I would say. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for the Night Shark. Let's move on to number 7. Alright guys, next up at number 7 we have the Albany VSTR. The Albany VSTR is one of my favorite cars in Grand Theft Auto Online. I absolutely love this thing. Ever since I saw it, I instantly made it into a Cadillac CTSV copycat pretty much. Now there is some debate whether this thing's an S-Class or whether it's a Cadillac CTSV. I personally think it's a CTSV, but I can totally see how you could think it may be based off of a Mercedes S-Class or maybe an E-Class. Anyway, regardless of that, it is one of my favorite sedans in the entire game. I love this thing's ability to just do pretty much whatever you want. If you want to drift this thing, you can do that super easily. If you want it to handle really well, I find it's super easy to make it just handle absolutely fantastically. Maybe it's just because I'm used to the car, but regardless, I think it's such an awesome car. It also has really good acceleration and a pretty good top speed. It's really just such a solid car. And I definitely think a lot more people should buy the VSTR in GTA. I know it's a pretty popular car with a lot of the community, but I'd still like to see a few more people driving it because this thing is just so awesome. Anyway guys, I think that's pretty much it for the VSTR. It's a great car. Let's move on to number 6. Alright, and next up guys, we of course have the AUKUS. The AUKUS is probably my favorite helicopter in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. It is just so solid. If you don't know about the AUKUS, it has an off radar ability, so when you're off the radar, you literally cannot be seen by any players in the entire session on the minimap or the expanded radar, or the big map in the pause menu. Right now, if there are other players in this session, they could not see me right now. Pretty huge advantage, I gotta say. It's kind of crazy. Still to this day, a lot of people don't really know that the AUKUS has this ability. On top of that, the AUKUS is also very well armed. It has homing missiles that you can equip it with, or a barrage. The barrage is pretty good. It shoots 4 missiles in rapid succession, which is a nice feature to have. However, the homing missiles are a little bit more useful most of the time, I think. The nice thing with the barrage is it does have the ability to fire without being locked on, of course, because it doesn't lock on, period. But sometimes the homing missiles will lock onto cops when you're trying to shoot somebody else who's just on the ground on foot maybe, which can be a little bit annoying. So sometimes having the barrage is not that bad. I personally use homing missiles. I have used the barrage in the past. Either of them are pretty good. And either way, I would definitely recommend picking up the AUKUS. It is the second fastest helicopter in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. It also seats 4 people, and keep in mind that is 4 people that you can take off of the radar instantly by pressing H on keyboard, or I would assume probably the D-pad on Xbox or PlayStation. The AUKUS is very good. You guys should definitely pick this thing up. It is a great helicopter. With that being said, let's move on to number 5. Alright guys, and next up at number 5, we have the Hydra. I am a super huge advocate for the Hydra. I am a huge fan of it. I have basically owned this thing since it came out in GTA Online, and ever since then, it's been over for anybody who tries to fight me. I mean, I'm not trying to say that I'm the best jet pilot ever. I get shot down literally all the time. But I do have a lot of experience with the Hydra, and I feel like I am quite good with it. The Hydra is definitely, in my opinion, the best airplane in Grand Theft Auto Online, and if not the best airplane, the best fighter jet. There's an argument that the laser is better than this thing, and there's definitely an argument that I think it's called the Pyro, or is it the Starling? I think it's the Starling is the best dogfighter in GTA, which I won't try to dispute that. However, the Hydra is just so lethal because of its cannon. The cannon on this thing is absolutely nuts. You have so much range with it. It will literally insta-kill like anything. It also has homing missiles and regular non-homing missiles as well. It's super fast. I believe that this thing is the fastest plane in Grand Theft Auto Online. I could be wrong. There could be a faster one, but a while ago at least, the Hydra was the fastest plane in GTA Online. So it's got a lot of good things going for it. It's a very solid plane. I would definitely recommend buying it, and this week it's actually on sale, so if you guys don't have a Hydra, I would definitely recommend picking one up. It is just such a solid plane, and there's nothing wrong with this thing. If you have a hangar, you can also paint it. As you guys can see, mine is of course red, because, you know, branding. So overall, the Hydra is a plane that I recommend probably more than any other plane in the entire game. It is absolutely awesome, and of course it also has VTOL mode, or hover mode if you guys are unfamiliar with what a VTOL is. Of course, you can basically slow this thing down and it kind of turns into a helicopter just without the rotor. Kind of cool. As you guys can see, I can just move very slowly through the city. If I want to laser these civilians, watch this. Here we go. You ready for it? Ah, bruh, no. That was a sound effect of them dying. Anyway, guys, yeah, the Hydra is really awesome. You guys should definitely pick this thing up. It is amazing. Alright guys, next up at number 4 we of course have the Insurgent Pickup Custom slash the Insurgent. For the video I'm only going to be driving the Pickup Custom, but the Insurgent is also right here, so whenever I say Insurgent Pickup Custom, pretty much just insert the Insurgent into the conversation. The Insurgent is my favorite militarized vehicle in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. Ever since this thing came out with the Heists update, it has been in my garage and I have loved every minute of it. The Insurgent is an absolute unit. If you want to bash a car out of your way and for them to have no chance at survival, I mean, as you guys can see, you can do that. The Insurgent is basically a extremely armored, faster moving tank, just without the cannon, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately, if it had a cannon, I don't know, that would be kind of insane. Now the Pickup Custom of course has the mounted machine gun on the top of it. I have heavy armor on mine, so my gunner, whenever I have one, is very, very well protected, or at least as well protected as they can be. I also have the proximity mine dropper on the back of this thing as well. I can, well, drop proximity mines and cause death and destruction, which is great. And of course this thing can also take the same amount of homing missiles from an Oppressor Mark II as the Night Shark, which is very, very good. The occupants are pretty well protected in this thing as well, and the Insurgent Pickup Custom can hold 9 players in it, and the regular Insurgent can hold 6. Which is pretty good. The Insurgent is definitely the vehicle that I use the most when I'm fighting griefers in this game, especially if I'm fighting griefers with friends, because I always have somebody on my gun. While I drive them around, they just absolutely destroy whoever we're fighting. The Insurgent is a must-have in Grand Theft Auto Online as far as I'm concerned. I will always recommend the Insurgent and the Insurgent Pickup Custom as the 2 best militarized vehicles in the entire game. Maybe not the Insurgent so much, but the Insurgent Pickup Custom, in my opinion, is definitely the best militarized vehicle in the entire game. Anyway guys, that is pretty much it for number 4. Let's move on to number 3. Alright guys, and next up at number 3 we of course have the Vapid Dominator ASP, formerly the fastest muscle car in the entire game. Now the second fastest muscle car in the entire game. Still pretty good, it really hasn't dropped off that much. Now the Dominator ASP, ever since it got added into the game, has been one of my favorite cars. And there are many different reasons for this. It handles amazingly, it accelerates very well. It's based off of one of my favorite Mustangs ever, or at least I've customized mine to be based off of one of my favorite Mustangs ever. The Dominator ASP is definitely a very good muscle car in Grand Theft Auto Online. Only slightly slower than the Bravado Buffalo STX, it is a very, very good car. With low grip tires and when stanced, this car was one of the fastest cars ever in Grand Theft Auto Online. I believe it would achieve a speed of around 180 miles an hour, which is pretty crazy in GTA considering most of the supercars top out around 125. Of course, the car was completely undrivable with low grips and while being stanced. It was pretty cool to be able to do that nonetheless. Of course, you can still stance the car if you choose to, it just makes the handling a little bit worse, but you do get a little bit more straight line performance, which is pretty nice. Overall, the Dominator ASP is a fantastic car in my opinion. I love this thing so much. And with that being said, let's move on to the car at number 2. Alright guys, you knew it was coming. We of course have the Canis Seminole at number 2. One of the greatest cars to ever exist and be added into Grand Theft Auto Online. It is faster than the Benefactor Krieger, it's a little known fact. It's also an absolutely fantastic off-roader. As you guys can see, it is just, you can't tame this thing off-road. It is amazing. It just cruises up these roads like it's nothing. You can take this thing up Mount Chiliad, no problem at all, especially due to its extreme speed. But also, Mount Chiliad gets scared because the Seminole is just such a good looking vehicle that it just has to let it up the side of it. The Canis Seminole is truly a goated vehicle. If you don't own a Canis... If you don't own a Canis Seminole, I feel really bad for you. It costs $30,000 on Southern San Andreas if you want to pick one up, or of course you do have the option of stealing it off the street. However, I would avoid this option because you are taking a Canis Seminole away from a fellow human being, which is honestly kind of a crime against humanity if you think about it, so really you should just buy your own. Anyway guys, the Canis Seminole, do I need to say more? Really? I don't think I do. Let's move on to number 1. Alright guys, and my favorite car ever in Grand Theft Auto Online is of course the Adder. The Adder was the most expensive car in all of Grand Theft Auto Online for quite some time, coming in at $1 million even. In early GTA Online, if you saw somebody with an Adder, you knew that they were absolutely balling. However, these days in Grand Theft Auto Online, the Adder is a bit less of a status symbol, but it is a very, very rare car. I'm probably one of the very few people on Earth that have the Adder as their favorite car in GTA. A lot of people really don't like this car, and I can't really figure out why. I guess it's probably something to do with the stigma around Bugatti and it being liked by 12-year-olds. However, I don't even consider this thing to be a Bugatti, it's just the Adder to me. I've owned an Adder basically for as long as I can really remember. I want to say I bought my first Adder back in 2014, and then when I got banned in 2017, I lost my original Adder, which it doesn't sound like it's a very major thing, and honestly, it probably isn't, but I was more upset about losing my original Adder than losing my character that was level 300 and something. And all of my other cars, all of my properties, all of my money, everything like that. I was more upset about losing my original Adder. As soon as I got back into my account, the first thing that I bought after buying a garage was of course the Adder. Ever since 2017, I have owned an Adder. I actually had two of these for quite some time, but I had to sell it for garage space, unfortunately. However, I have kept my original Adder from this character, and this Adder is customized the exact same way that it was on my old character. Now, the Adder is not the fastest car ever, it doesn't have the greatest acceleration ever, it doesn't have the greatest top speed ever, but in my opinion, it is still a really solid car. The acceleration is fast enough for me, the top speed is good enough for me, and the handling is perfect for me. Overall, the Adder is a fantastic car, and I can't necessarily recommend that you guys would buy it, because it's really not that great of a car. However, it is one that is special to me and that I really like. So anyway guys, there you have it. That has been my top 10 favorite vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Let me know what you thought of the cars and the vehicles that I picked for my list in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, dislike if you didn't, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.